we've got a space that's say 4 foot, it's 4 foot by 5.5 foot. Yeah, roughly 5.5 foot. Our panels, these panels themselves are 65 or 60 by 40. The panels we'd be getting are probably going to be 65 by 40, just because when here's the thing, supposed to have a shipment about 2 weeks ago come in, and hasn't come in yet because they're waiting to ship everything at once, and they're waiting to get their shipment of panels so they can ship my panels with everything else I'm waiting on. So we actually had to take these panels off our own installation, and these are 215 watt modules. They're a lot smaller, but smaller by 5 inches. It's not a big deal. Everything still applies as before. What do we do first?
Locate your rafters.
Locate your rafters. Yeah, you can either, use the old sound technique. You can go up in your attic and drill through to punch a hole to see where your rafters are at. Or a nice thing to do too is if you have a plumbing vent that goes through the roof, go and measure off that plumbing vent to see where a rafter starts, and then okay, that's where this stud or this rafter is, and then you can measure, okay, I'm 16 inches on center, I'm 24 inches on center, and then lay out your roof system from there. So you find your roof rafters, then we can figure out, okay, here's where my roof rafter is, and I want to put my panels, they're 40 inches wide, I don't think we can fit. Did you guys fit 2 panels on here last year? When you did this?
No.
I don't think so. Okay, we'll just do 1 panel. You want to start laying out your element. So if our panel is 60 inches tall, the ones we've been getting again are 65, but if our panel is 60 inches tall, where do I want to put my L feet at?
12 to 15 inches in.
12 to 15 inches from the top or bottom. So if we are, say this is our ridge cap, and we want to start 4 inches down with our panel, and let's just give it another 12, because that's 16 inches is where our rail wants to be. That gives us 4 inches of room, so you're not seeing it from the other side at all. 16 inches, and then if we want to come 12 inches up from the bottom of a 60-inch panel, what does that leave us with? Here's the mental math. 48? Is that right?
48 top of panel.
Oh, from the top of the panel, yeah, I'm sorry. So we got 16 inches, and then we go, that's where this is, and then from the top of the panel, which is 4 inches, we're going 48 down. Okay, that's not going to work for us. Let's just say we start our feet, let's say we want to overhang our panels.
Great thinking.
Overhang the panel by, say, 6 inches. 6 inches, let's start it at 12. So we're 6 inches down plus, what is 6 inches? There we are. 6 inches and 48, so here's where our other outfit's going to be. We've located our roof rafter that we want to start with, so this is where our rail is going to start. If we're 6 inches down, we have already located our roof rafter. Pre-drill where we want to go. We are going to be doing, again, is anybody here with metal roofs? Anybody doing a metal roof? Yes, possibly?
Yeah, I've done that roof already.
Okay. You could be proud of that. You look a little bit ashamed there. If you have an asphalt roof, again, shipment of brackets didn't come in. This is just a piece of tin, but basically this is what you've got going on. Slide this up underneath your shingles, however, wherever you need to be. And once you slide it up underneath the shingles, see how far this sticks up? This is why I like to stay away from the ridge cap. If you do get to some nails at the ridge cap, you can cut the top of this off. I'd prefer you cut the top of it off rather than pop nails on your ridge cap and have that catch wind and blow off, and then your rest of the roof is blown off. But you slide it up to wherever your hole is. There's a little rubber grommet on here. Shoot a little bead of silicone in there. Once you shoot some silicone in, you take your stainless steel lag. We use 5/16 stainless steel lags from R3 Hardware's fancy new stock that he just ordered. Washer, stainless steel washer. Here's your L foot. It'll actually have a little groove in it that you Clip right over the rubber foot. Tighten it down, and that's what you got. Well, not all the way through. That's pretty much it. If you have a metal roof, and you still have to find your roof rafters, but you have that little 1-inch spacer in there, those strips that go across your roof, they actually fasten the metal roof down to, you're gonna need more than a 3.5-inch lag. I would suggest a 4.5 or even a 5-inch lag to go into that. What we do for metal roofs, and we've also done for asphalt shingle roofs before they had come out with stuff like this, is I think, Kathy, I think your, yeah, there you are. I think your roof is this way also.
Pete just did that the other day. He put those feet on there,
Yeah.
that stuff.
What is that stuff?
Butyl rubber, this is natural butyl rubber. You can get butyl rubber. I prefer this stuff because it's real nasty stuff. Flex Sealer, permanent leak repair and sealer. You guys have this stuff at R3? Where do you get that?
Home Depot.
This is actually, Home Depot doesn't have this unless they started stocking it. I actually went out to Hamlin at the True Value out there. They have it. I think Durham's might have it, but they've got a different name for it. Anyway, so if you're putting your outfit in, we have, here's our outfit, and we're a 60-inch panel, and if we're 12 inches up and 12 inches down, we're 36 inches to our next foot, correct? Does that make sense? Yes. So we are 36 inches, and if this was a metal roof, what you would do is take a utility knife and just slice this about an inch, or about just a little bit of a reveal around it to fit this pad. Silicone the hole. Put this down, you peel the tape off of it, your little square pad that you cut for it. Peel this off of it. It's really, really nasty stuff, and especially if you're out in the sun, it's a pain. Like, you'll have your nice shiny impact driver will be covered in silicone or solar seal if you use that stuff. And this stuff, it gets all gross, but it does come off eventually. Put this on and tighten down here. I'm not going to do it because when we take it apart, then it's going to be
Question over here.
a gross mess. Here's some of those pads. Yes?
How about that, kind of that black stuff in the auto parts store? I think you used to put in windshields in automobiles.
You could use that. I'm not sure. The reason I like this stuff is because it's meant to patch roofs. Where, like, if you just go somewhere and say, oh, I want some butyl rubber, well, how is that butyl rubber going to handle up to UV rays over the course of time? And then if you have a leak in your roof over the course of time, then all of a sudden it's well, I just used some butyl rubber. Well, is that rated for the temperatures of the roof? Well, I don't know. Let's get an engineer in here. This stuff is meant for roofs, so that's why I like to use this stuff.
Dual membranes, almost guaranteed for 30 years. The dual membrane itself, and then the caulk they use, the dual caulk is also got the 25 to 30 year.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got stuff, actual specifications on it and warranties, but, which I don't have that. I know when we did our training here with Roy 5 years ago, he said use butyl rubber, but you go to these different places and they don't have any. So this is the best stuff I found, but, you know, realistically, you're only siliconing a small hole in the roof that's really covered, that's really filled with a stainless steel lag, so it's really a small amount that you're siliconing. So we just put the gooey part down and put our lag bolt through that, and then we actually come back through and silicone a horseshoe around it. Just get any type of clear silicone, or Durlam's I know has Solar Seal, or R3, I don't know what the name
What about
is.
just roof tar?
You can use roof tar itself, but I think that stuff wears after, that stuff dries out after a while. Like, you know, when you're supposed to tar, like skylights on, you know, double wide or something like that, you're supposed to tar them every couple of years. I think that stuff dries out and cracks.
You ever put panels on a steeper roof?
Yes.
Can
Yes,
you
that
use
was-
those as kickers?
Oh, as these,
Are they
as,
strong enough to
to
start?
support your weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the nice part about it is, like when we did Jack's roof, Jack's got like 42.5 degree tilt. It was like,
Exactly latitude.
yeah. So when you, this is nice because once you get your first row established, if you're working a real steep roof, you don't have to use any type of roof jacks or anything. You have these things set up and that's your rail. You work off of that and it's nice to, you have your own ladder system right on the roof to work off of. They'll support you, especially if you're going 48 inches. If you got an overhang of a rail by a foot or so, I wouldn't obviously put your weight out on that. But yeah, it's a nice thing to work. And then if it is a steep roof, once you get down to the bottom, you end up going a little bit slower installing those panels because you're working off ladders and such. But steep metal roofs, yeah, it's once you have that first row established, everything just goes a lot faster.
I know Pete made some strips that he could put down on those feet that he could use to push against.
You want to measure down and put 2 more on. So just imagine that there's some of that roof patch. Tighten down on that.
Larry, are you recommending the roof patch for asphalt too?
No, I'm not. I've installed many systems like this without these, because when they first came out, Quick Mount PV was the only one that had these. Each one of these pieces of flash setup were, I think, $26 a piece. So every 4 feet, you had $26 times 2 for every row. So, I mean, that added up quite fast. When we did Kathy's roof, this is all Roy did, and this is what he's been doing for the past 10 years, so we figured why not keep doing this and keep the cost down for the homeowners, because you're looking at an extra $3, $4, $5, up to $10,000 just for a flash fancy setup. So, since these things have come down, I think they're about $6 a piece now. Why not? You know, it's a little bit cleaner of a job, and it's flash, so you shouldn't have any problems. And, yeah, I mean, I don't think does anybody really want to get their hands on? If you do, don't feel bashful, don't feel, no?
You'll go over the whole roof putting these outfeet on,
Yeah, if you're,
wherever your rows are.
yeah, if your panel's gonna start, say, right here, then you wanna go into that first gutter. You might have to shift your orientation just a little bit in order to catch roof rafters, or just leave your rail stick out a little bit further past the.
Excuse me, I didn't get your name.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Bill.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, why don't you crawl up on the thing and make it really realistic?
You mentioned I'm usually the guy on the ground because I'm good with like mental math and stuff. I found that if I make myself useful on the ground, it's less time I have to be on the roof.
Apparently, you must not, we'll go on.
Yeah, so if it's steep, it helps to put the rails on the bottom set and then
And then work your way out.
work your way up.
Yeah, you really want to work your rails from the bottom to the top, and then your panels from the top down.
So then here's a piece of rail, which, I'm gonna slide into the other side.
What's the price of the rail per foot?
I don't know. Probably it's about $70 for a 20-footer. So, don't do the math.
Right around $1.75.
And what I've heard is the whole system is about 75 cents per watt. Is that right?
The whole
racking system.
racking system. It could be. I don't. I just know what our price is usually. We're usually for a 5 kilowatt and under system. We're about $3.15 a watt to install it, and then 5 to 10 were about $3, a little bit less than 3. Then like a large system, we're probably about $2.50 a watt.
It sounds like it's gotten cheaper.
Yeah. Yep. Want to put in the top rail?
Yep.
Need a nut. Stainless steel nuts and bolts. There's the bolt and the little bit of friction A little bit of serration there that helps tighten them down. This is 9/16. Your lags are usually 1/2 inch. These guys are 9/16. You want to grab that other rail, actually? We'll put them both up in the straight line.
Those bolts, they all come with the package?
Yes, yep, these bolts will come, these nuts and bolts come with these L feet in a package. And
In the best of worlds, you usually lose things. How hard is it to get a single?
get extras?
Yeah.
It's not hard to get
Put it
extras.
on a roof that had no,
We might have some extras laying around if you do drop some, but it's usually if you hear something fall and start bouncing down the roof, just stop what you're doing and watch.
Looks crooked to
where it
me.
lands.
No, because this one is low.
Gutters are nice because a lot of times they catch
It
a
is.
lot of things that you drop.
But you have to fix the roads.
This is crooked, guys.
The nuts on the other side?
yeah, on the bottom one,
Ah,
he said yesterday, last week.
So in this one, for the demonstration, you should actually have it turned around.
Yeah,
We'll straighten up actually your edge because there's not, seems like more, well, yeah, we'll straighten up this. So now we get our rails up here.
main thing you're doing is cut it for
We'll
expense purposes.
straighten up our edge. If we want to be roughly, say 6 inches off of our L foot, and say this is the edge of our roof line, we'll go 4 inches. We'll go 4 inches. If we had multiple rows, and what you could do here is, okay, I'm measuring off the L foot, but your eye is really going to see the edge of the roof. So I really need to measure off the end of the rail and say, okay, I'm about 3 inches here, I'm 3 inches there. If you had multiple rows, you could take your chalk line or a straight line and come right off the end. And then, you know, say you had a couple extra rows in here, you'd line them all up, get them all straight, you'd establish that first one, tighten it down, and then work all the other ones down. Tighten them all up so you can see that whole, when you stand back and look at the edge of the roof with the edge of the panels, you don't have other rails sticking out and in and all sorts of ways.
Blair, last week you had the L foot on the bottom row reversed, right, for aesthetics?
Yeah. For aesthetics, just because when this is flipped around, when you're looking at the bottom of the rail, all you see is, you see mainly just rail, and it looks a lot nicer and cleaner, which we didn't do. If you want to take a look at this side of the rail versus that side of the rail, feel free.
Well, that's not the bottom rail anyway, right? It's starting at the top of the roof. It's gonna-
Yeah, we got another 6 or 7 rows here, so big system.
Theoretically, you could just loosen that nut and that screw and just turn it.
You can loosen it, spin it around, and
Yeah.
tighten it down again. When we're doing systems like this, it's not bad to actually leave this a little bit loose, because if you see this rail here, especially this one, it's not straight in line with, it's not connect or touching the rail all in one continuous spot. It's touching here and it's a little bit off kilter, sticking out. So we'll go through, and once we have our rails established, okay, this is exactly where I want it. I want it up as high as it'll go.
Now, how much spacing between each panel?
You want to keep like this row of panels and then that row of
Yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
A piece of cardboard, a folded over piece of cardboard gives you a little bit more room for air.
Okay, so mathematically, how are you doing that? Like, you're just
I
running
lay out
your
the-
rails to start,
Yes.
so you gotta figure all that math out.
So then, yeah, if
before
we
you
had
get
another row
started.
of panels, we'll have, okay, well, you know, we're gonna be 12 inches off of here is where this panel ends. And then if we wanna go another 12 inches, there's 24. And if you
24 and a quarter.
24 and a quarter?
Because of the card.
For the,
Oh, because the cardboard, yeah. Usually we don't factor in that cardboard necessarily, because if you're somewhere within 12 to 14 inches or 15
Okay.
inches, you're good, but
It's not gonna play out critical
no.
when you start laying panels.
No, because, I mean, especially with this setup, you guys aren't doing more than 5 rows or something, you know, I mean, I don't see anybody
Yeah.
using your system.
But, so, like, you could set this panel, when you set this panel on,
It can slide up and down until you establish.
till you decide where you want
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I gotcha.
Also, that cardboard is for expansion and contraction, isn't it, when they get cold or hot?
Yeah, yeah, we do that also for
Yeah.
existing pavement. So we raise them all up to the top of this upper groove, tighten them down. Again, we keep them in the upper piece, gives you more room to reach underneath there if you forget to clip a wire together. And it also gives you more room to reach underneath there if you need to adjust the panel height. But mainly the reason we do that is so it gives a little bit better of an airflow underneath it to keep it cooler. What day of the year do you think you produce more electric on your solar panels?
What day of the
What
year?
day? Like what time
Summer
of year?
solstice.
No,
2 days ago?
The longest day.
no,
Typically, you produce better in the spring and fall. I think fall for you, Jack?
April.
April.
April's, in fact, this April was really good, or March, because we still had snow on the ground. And the snow reflects light off the ground up
Snow
onto the
reflects,
roof.
but also the hotter it gets outside, the hotter your roof gets, the hotter the panels get, the hotter the wires get, causes more voltage drop. So the more voltage drop is actually like resistance for the wire, so the electricity doesn't move as quickly as it should.
So what you're saying is, in August, in Arizona, solar panels don't work so good.
Correct, yeah. So, you know, you'll actually have some nice days in the middle of winter where the sun's out and shining. You have a whole bunch of snow on the ground and it's reflecting, you get sun reflecting off of everywhere. And, yeah, so don't always think that, okay, it's summer, I should be producing the best I actually, you know, the best ever, and I overproduced in April or something.
Yeah, they're most efficient at some mid-temperature, like 40 degrees or 35 degrees. That's when the panels are most efficient in gathering light.
And the snow has wiped off all the pollen and other things too. Cleaned them nice.
A lot of Windex.
If you want to get up there.
Does it produce a full moon?
I've never seen it turn on a full moon.
Well, Roy Butler, who installed ours and trained all these guys, said that somebody did make an assumption that it didn't have any current in it on the full moon, and apparently it did.
But Roy also has those type of friends that would
Right.
So if you take a dry line, of course, it's a chalk line, but you take a dry line, go across your whole set of rails, and because the roof goes up and down, you can actually adjust the rails up and down to start with to get you more dialed in. So when you have that panel adjustment like we showed you on the end, that gets you so you're not adjusting up and down so much and getting real crazy.
So if you're gonna put a new roof on before you do all this work, you're gonna try to go with a blonder roof, a lighter colored roof?
It doesn't matter what color you go with.
Well, I'm saying like you're talking about the
Could be a little
temperature now.
cooler.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
you
yeah.
definitely-
Yeah, that definitely does help. That does help keep it cooler.
So I had someone call me the other day who's got a bifacial panel, a different type of manufactured panel for commercial deployments, but it collects sun from the underside too. So that
Really?
you could do a white roof and collect sunlight reflecting off the bottom of the roof, and you just use that to add to the power.
There's
That's
a-
for commercial purposes.
There's another reason to use white roofs. They do reflect the sun back out into the atmosphere, and if everybody used a white roof, climate change would not be as much of an issue as it is now.
Of course, you got black solar panels on top.
So you can sell white shingles now.
Right.
So, another thing we didn't mention was just using the chalk line. You know, once we establish where these are, you can go to the other side of the roof, find your roof rafters, and then just snap a line across it. Snap a line up and down and make a nice little grid of every place your feet are gonna land. I'm sure you can get chalk lines.
Just gonna say, he sells new chalk lines at R3 too.
That
Yeah, it would be.
that baby's been around. It's like he got that from his
Came over
father.
with Mayflower.
So, now that we have our panels on,
Rails.
right now.
Rails.
Or rails. Now we have our rails on. We don't have any splices here right now. You saw a video of the splice. but I'll just show that again quickly. If we were to splice some rails, you want to stick this on that side, Bill, because this was actually cut off with a chop saw, so it's a little bit harder to slide on.
You got 2 screws in each rail.
Pre-drill or they self?
They're self-tapping. They'll come with the splice bar. And like if you remember from last week, he had said, as you're installing the rails, you put all 4 screws in, just to keep everything stable. And then, before you actually cover this up with panels, you unscrew the tube from one side so that it does.
You can either put one of these lugs on either side, tighten them down, and that'll be your bond. Remember, there's a weave underneath it. Or they have these actual bonding strips that you can just go across it and using the same type of weave setup. That bonds one rail to the next. Remember, bonding is key. So once you have all your splices taken care of and established, you need to measure out and see where your panels are going to fall. So if we're starting here, let's see, we give ourselves an inch extra to play with, and then an inch for the end clip, so we're starting at 2 inches. That's where our first panel is going to start. If our panel is 40 inches wide, 40 inches wide ends right here. So we want to actually be, we'd be at 42 inches. With the center of this area from 2 inches to 42 inches is 22 inches. So that's
21.
40.
42.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was right with 22?
Yeah, because you did the 1 inch.
Yeah, I was right.
Oh,
It doesn't
okay.
happen often, okay? So here I am at 22 inches. We mark the upper side of the rail. So you don't, because you just don't see it from the bottom. If for some reason you look up there and see a black X with a Sharpie, you mark the upper side of the rail. And also it's a lot easier to work because keep in mind, your feet, as you're working this rail, your feet are probably on this rail. And your head normally just hangs over the edge and it's easier just to see the back side anyway. So you put your X here, and that's where you're going to be putting your inverter. From there, you measure another 40 inches down, put an X. Another 40 inches down, put an X. And then come through and, you want to slide those in from that end?
Now, this is 40 inches wide, this panel?
Yes. 40 inches wide, this one is actually 60 inches tall.
Do you have to allow anything in between the panels for the clip?
Yeah, 40, I say 40 inches, I'm sorry, because some of the panels are 38 3/4, some of the panels are 39 1/2, so roughly, I say 40 inches because this is what these are spaced at. But this is our trunk cable here. So, when we do that, here's our 20, or halfway down the panel mark. We're going to 7/16 for the ratchet.
So that trunk cable can handle 15 panels.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you were to do 18 panels, then you would have to do 2
You
trunk
would-
lengths.
2 sets of 9.
2 sets of 9, and then back to running them into the panel.
Mhm.
Can you do, you said, what did you say about running them right into the bottom of the panel? You could do 1 or 2.
You just do 1.
So then you would have to, if you were
You'd have
gonna
to
do
do
more
a
than 15
sub-panel.
panels, then you'd have to put a sub panel.
Sub panel and then run 1 lead in, yeah.
Gotcha.
So here we are, we tighten down the 3 sizes you need, usually your lags are 1/2 inch. This is always 9/16, this is always 7/16 on Unirac, and that's pretty typical. Yeah, this is 7/16 and your mid clips are 7/16. Deep well is usually more friendly, especially when you get to the mid clip. So you come through here, you tighten this down, don't have to go too crazy.
Now, did you put a weave under that?
I didn't put a weave under that. You can bond it that way with either this style weave, which would go underneath this bolt, and that would be your bond, or you could do the bond with this lug here.
That would be with the copper wire.
The copper wire, yes. The copper wire running one to the next. We prefer the copper wire just because in New York State, the inspectors are actually pretty difficult. If you had pulled a whole set of wires through a 100-foot conduit and a little marking came off the one or something like that, and you didn't have it marked correctly, I mean, it's obvious this one's a positive, that one's a negative, but it wasn't, they'll catch you on that, or, you know, just little things. Yes, it's code, yeah, we understand, but, they're quite particular on things. That's why we like to run the copper wire, so they can see it, they don't have to look for it, you know? We come down here, we do another,
When they do the inspection, they hold a little mirror down there or something, or? how do they do that?
typically, the inspectors around here, just typical inspector doesn't get on the roof at all. The only inspectors that I know have gotten on the roof are the ones from, not from New York State, but from the actual New York State rebate program, NYSERDA. I know that because one of my wires wasn't marked correctly. I had marked it white in one spot and like gray in the other spot, and they were mismatched. So therefore, they weren't marked the same correctly, and I know that because he had taken a picture of it, which was a combiner box on the roof, so I knew he was actually up there taking pictures of it. So, where's my inverter?
It'll be an inch apart.
Anybody see a shiny end-phase inverter?
Yeah, but roughly, we see.
Unless that's one of those things that I handed around to.
Right over there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right here.
39, yeah, 38, 40. You know, it's not 40 inches is good. Put up your rails on the ground and then put them on the roof. You run everything on the roof, panels, but you don't want to short it. You know, you don't want to do your math wrong on the ground.
So we tighten down there, say that's 40 inches apart. Then you run your trunk cable.
So now you have them all done on the roof.
Yeah, these are all down on the roof. You know, we don't have any on that row because that's just the bottom of the panel. So the next set of rails will have them. You come down, use black wire ties. They actually have cable clips for these too if you want to use them. We usually cable or tie them off just off center. Wire tie that all to the roof. You could actually wait to wire tie them until you've actually run your ground wire, which is again number 8 copper. And come across the roof. Phillips screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, just take that off. We'll bond this down, on down the line.
And to the rails with the clips you have.
And to the rails, yeah. If you have those clips, you can bond them to the rails. And then you'll actually bond every other rail. So if you have, say, 6 rails across the roof, you're doing 3 rows of panels. You only have to bond every other rail. You have to bond at least one of the rails for each set of panels. Because the reasoning behind that is with these weaves that we're going to install with the panels, the weaves are right. With these weaves that we're going to install with the panels, well, here's your first panel is going to be clipped here. You're supposed to alternate your weaves. So the next weave that you do to bond the panel is this side of this panel is bonded here, and the other side of it is bonded down there. And then so you have one panel here that's bonded this corner and that corner, and then the next panel goes down, which is bonded on that same weave, that corner and this corner. So each of your rails are bonded together through the frame of the panel. And then that's why you only need to bond every other rail, is because both of these rails should be bonded together through the panel.
So the weave stretches between 2 panels?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Right here is about 1 inch space, and one rail will come down here, or one panel frame will come down here, the other panel frame will come down here, and they'll bite in and give you your crown.
And how do you combine your multiple copper runs?
That's one code that you have.
Yep.
Your code, not, again, that, I've had people question me or anything, but it's one of those things that you do when you kind of tell the inspector, like, hey, look what I did, because you're not sure what you're looking for, but, you know, be proud of me, I followed the code here. You need to keep continuous bond throughout the entire system. So when you're bonding one rail to the next, and then on down to your ground rod, or through your inverters and then down to the ground rod, that can not be bonded with a connection that can be reversed. You need to have one continuous wire, and if you need to cut the wire, you need to have what they call an irreversible connection, a crimp connection. That's what this $175 tool is. And these little copper crimps. Is if for some reason you've got to cut somewhere, you know, say you're pulling a whole bunch of wires through a conduit to the roof, and then you're pulling, then you have all your roof wires together, you're not going to try to keep that all continuous. So you're going to have two different connections you have to make. Well, you slide both copper wires through here, crimp it down, that's irreversible. And
That's the only legal way to connect the ground?
through an irreversible connection, yeah.
Or keep it solid.
Or just have one wire the whole,
Yeah,
One wire the whole way.
continuous wire.
So
and if you have to swing it back and forth for 3 rows.
if you want to use a split bolt or something like that, technically that's not code, that's not acceptable, that's not what it's supposed to.
We've seen some heavier grounds welded.
Yeah,
Some heavy
if
wire.
that's, yeah, irreversible means you can't take it apart like a split bolt or something like that, or even a wire nut, you know, one of those big little gray wire nuts. So, yeah, you want to just coil that out?
When do you get it inspected?
You,
Is there different stages of
you inspect it when it's all done. It's not like the inspector's got to come back and see the inverters and the bond wire and all that stuff, and then you can put your panels on, and then he comes back and system's up and ready to go. You're just waiting for him to come and sign off on it.
So he could
Again,
miss a lot.
excuse me?
He could miss a lot.
He could miss a lot, and he has to trust a lot because they don't get on the roof, except for New York
So-
State. Yeah.
So the whole process is you go about getting your permit, you have all that stuff ready. You obtain a permit, go ahead and install it, then call and get it inspected in the end.
Yeah, the one thing, the interconnection agreement, in order to hook up to PPNL or NICEAG or Penelec.
So it's a permit, then,
Either or. You don't need, usually the same paperwork you need, the same cut sheets and stuff like that you need for the permit is the same one you need for the interconnection. You could file it for them at the same time.
so that's,
Never deny a permit, right?
They're not dependent on each other.
say you're in the borough, everything's.
I wouldn't think so.
yours.
You know, I can't speak for the inspector, but
You guys have
there's
special.
no,
You have to call your
There is,
township too, because a lot of them won't even require a permit,
yeah.
just an inspection.
Yeah, I know Manchester Township, you know, you call them for a permit and then they give you this guy's number and you say, oh, I think you gotta call this guy. Oh, solar panels? Well, I think call this guy. And 4 or 5 calls later, you're back to the first guy you started with and said, oh, call it. No, I talked to you 2.5 weeks ago. I need to, oh, well, that's the thing. You know, well, we're not sure what we charge for a solar array and, you know, it's, sometimes it's interesting to find out what.
How about, you have to have them in Damascus Township, don't you?
No, not Damascus and not
No,
Dyersburg.
I mean, you have systems in
Oh, yeah,
Damascus
yeah.
Township, so no permit required
No
in
permit required,
Damascus.
but we still get Bob Bates, who's the inspector. to
Right,
come.
same with generators,
Mhm, yeah.
same thing.
So, and Bob was at, I think, the training demonstration we did for Dennis Longnecker. So he he was there and saw and tried to grasp as much as he could, but, okay.
So in Damascus, you don't need a permit for this?
You don't need a permit, no. But you still need your an electrical inspection
Permit to put up a
to
wood shed,
sign off
you don't need a
for,
Permit for a solar
yeah.
array.
you still need some inspector to sign off on the system for the interconnecting with the utility company. So yeah, you get your permit, you get your utility interconnection agreement, part 1, install the system, get it inspected, which the inspector signs off on, utility interconnection agreement, part 2, then you send that away, they'll approve, once they approve, then you can turn your system on. And a lot of times, if you have a permit or whatever, that inspection fee is included with your permit.
And then they come in and put the meter in too.
Yeah, sometime when you apply for part one of the utility interconnection, they'll come within the next week or so and
Yeah.
exchange your utility meter that you have now for a bidirectional meter to keep track of that push and pull. So if you're not there using electric and you're producing like crazy, you still get credit for that.
Is there one meter or two?
One.
Is there a second?
Well, there's a second one.
There's a second meter. We'll get to that. Since we have, before we actually put the panel on, I'll just show you what happens, just a quick view of what you're looking at electrical connection wise. Usually, typical asphalt roof, we'll use some more of this roof patch and cut to fit the bottom of it. You see some holes in the bottom of this one. This one must have been one we didn't use. So anyway, mount that to the roof. You drill a hole in the back of it so you can get your wires down through. Silicone around it. This cable, wherever this thing ends, is going to be brought into your junction box. Weatherproof connection. They call them strain reliefs also, is another word that they use. I laid them in here somewhere. So in your electrical box, you have this wire coming in, you have a green, a red, a white, and a black. You're going to be using 12-3 Romex, which has a green, a red, a white, no, I'm sorry, a bare copper, a red, a white, and a black. So the colors go together. Your bare goes to your green, which is your ground. They sell these at R3? Yes, they sell these waterproof connections. You can use just typical wire nuts, but these are nicer because they're silicone filled. You twist them on there, they dry, they make a nice weatherproof connection just in case from humidity and everything in the box that you don't have an issue. Just make your connection. This, usually we'll drill just a little tiny hole in the bottom of this box, so in case water vapors, condensation does get in there, it doesn't build up. In case for some reason water does get in the box that shouldn't, the water gets out. Drill it in the bottom so it just drips out.
Mud wasps and,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look out for the environment. There you go. See? Everybody got to have one. So, you have this connected into a weatherproof box. Get the bigger ones. They make like a 2x4x4 inch box. Just get the bigger ones. It's a lot easier. You could actually install this under the panel if you want. I don't suggest it. I actually prefer on the top of the panels. I mean, above the panels if our roof continued up higher. Above the panels a little bit because most of the time you can't even see it up there. Just by the angle you're looking up at the panels and they sit up higher so you don't even see it.
What about under the edge of the roof?
You can do it underneath the edge of the roof too. I would just suggest you protect the cable somehow if you wrap the edge of the cable just from wind and stuff rubbing on the roof. They make like that corrugated black plastic stuff that you see underneath car trailers and actual automotive vehicles. You know, we've wrapped it with that before to get it around the edge of a
I
roof.
saw one once where the guy attached a
Junction
metal
box.
plate and just had used a regular electrical box for a plug.
Oh, really?
And so he had the electrician come in and just do an electrical connector,
Like a weather, yeah.
three prong, 40 volt, and then
That
plugged it
works
in.
Hey, you don't put the box underneath the panel so you have access to it? Is that the purpose of that?
You can put it underneath the panels. Technically, this is still accessible
Yeah.
by code because you can remove
Yeah,
the
but you don't
panel.
want, you would like to put it outside.
Yeah, I would like to
So
put it outside.
Why? To access?
Just if you have to access it at a later point, you're not popping panels off.
Right.
So you run your 12-3 Romex through your roof. The reason you can run Romex and not have to put in metal conduit is because this is AC now. You're not running any DC. This is all AC. The only DC you have is from the panel to these leads here, and that's all changed to AC here. Yeah, that's one of the things that makes it a lot easier. You don't have to remember positive and negative. You don't have to do metal conduit. You run your electrical system down to, I'm going to call it the basement, just because that's typically where people's electric panels are. So you're running from the roof through your house. Yeah. through your house into we have these little fancy utility meter bases. These are if you're in like an RV park or something, they use these. Come into here. You go to the top with your leads because just you want to measure the actual production of the meter, just like in your utility meter that comes from the utility company, they come into the top, you come off the bottom. So you, with your power source, just think of this as your utility, this comes into the two top leads. You put your ground underneath here, your whites you can wire nut together, you don't have to use the blue ones because you're inside now, and your two other leads come up to these top lugs here, and then off the bottom you go out to your electric panel, bottom corner. This is actually what we use more with string inverters, just because it's nice to have a little offset nipple and everything wires in and wires out. Yeah.
You don't actually need that though, dude. That's just so you can see what you're producing.
I don't believe you need it by code.
You don't need it by code.
You don't need it by code.
If you're gonna sell SRECs, you do.
Yeah, if you're gonna sell your renewable energy credits, you do need it.
Isn't that why they have a byway meter, BPL, so they can measure it?
They can measure and keep track of it, but you wanna keep track of these to know how much you're actually producing. One, if something goes wrong and you don't have it hooked up to the internet or whatever, you don't wanna do and be involved with that, you can say, hey, I didn't produce as much as I should have, like last April. And if you're gonna be selling the XREX at $30 a piece.
And regardless, you'll want to take a reading every month and keep a record of it.
Or daily,
Just makes sense.
or hourly.
If you've got the internet monitoring, you probably won't.
It'll be like Facebook will be gone, you'll be following your solar panels.
So then from that meter base,
Physically recorded.
you come out of the bottom of that meter base and into a double 20 breaker. This is Square VQO series, whatever you are. You might be Homeline, you might be Cutler Hammer VR.
If you run more than 15 panels, you have two wires, what's it called again? The big black wire? Trunk wire. Then you're running those two trunk wires into a sub-panel feed?
You'd be running these two trunk cables from your roof into a junction box.
Okay.
From that junction box, you would run two sets of 12-3 to a sub-panel, and then from that sub-panel through your meter, so you can measure all that electric, and then into one breaker.
Why couldn't you go into a into a junction box, increase the size of your wire, and go into the bottom of your panel?
Because then you'd have a larger breaker at the end of that protecting that, and that larger breaker doesn't protect this 12-gauge wire then.
Okay,
So,
I gotcha.
yeah. So
Yeah,
then, but then
that makes sense.
where you would put that sub panel would be, instead of going from roof junction box right into the meter, you would have your sub panel in between there. Off the sub panel, increase the size of your wires through the meter
Okay,
base.
say that, start back again. Your two trunk wires,
You'd have two trunk cables come into here,
okay?
and then off that same, I mean, you could have separate junction boxes if you want, that's fine too. But off of your junction box, you would come with your 12-3,
Two 12-3s,
two sets of 12-3.
okay,
You would come down into the sub panel,
okay.
and then from the sub panel, you would have to increase your wires that come off the
Okay,
lugs.
so you're running two double volt 20s into that sub panel, so you have two feeds into that sub
Yes.
panel.
Yep,
And two breakers on the sub panel.
two breakers in the sub
Right,
panel.
but two feeds with two double volt.
And then you take a number 8 wire out the
It
top.
could be in the attic, it could be in the garage, it could be outside.
You can hook up to any
Okay.
panel you have, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be the one in the basement, right? It could be any panel.
You need to mark everything out to, actually out to the outside disconnect, but if you have your main panel, where your main service comes in, you have a main disconnect with that main panel, and you have a sub panel somewhere else that you wanna tie into, you have to come into the bottom left of that,
Okay.
mark that, and then treat that as still solar producing, and bring those leads of that sub panel, say it's a double 100 breaker that feed that sub panel in your garage, you need to rearrange your breaker box and bring that feed into the bottom corner of your sub panel, and mark that as do not relocate this overcurrent device, which we will get those stickers for you.
If you have two panels in your house, if you already have a sub panel, can you run one of those into a sub panel and the other one into your main panel, lower left?
No. Because if you run one into your main panel, that sub panel is still backfeeding somewhere else into that main panel, and it's not in the bottom line.
That's a double, so then it's a double.
Yeah.
All right.
It is 9 o'clock, so you want to put the panel
Let's
on?
get the panel on there, yeah. So, here we have a panel. We're gonna start with 2 end clips.
Worse, it's gonna get 900 degrees on the roof in a minute.
Yeah, and doing that. And the 7/16.
What make are those panels?
This is Kyocera 215s, because at the time, 4 years ago, that was the best we could come up with. And they're 5 inches shorter, so they fit perfectly across the size roof we were doing. We didn't want anything to overhang. So what you're gonna do is just slap the panel up here. You wanna just get underneath it? Yeah. 3 people on the roof is actually nice, but usually we only have 2. And say you wanna measure, okay, we're gonna go 12 inches. So drop it down a little bit, up a little bit, up a 1/4 inch, good. A lot of times we'll actually take a marker and mark the end of where 12 inches falls. And then tilt this side down. Good. Come back and check here. Yeah, we're good. Now keep in mind, this is the most critical panel to start with, and then the top row is the hardest row to get established. So,
The top row or the bottom row?
Top
Oh,
row.
we're starting at the top, right?
this is the top, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we just moved it, but
Gotta
put
get
our
that-
weave underneath.
Gotta get the weave underneath.
That weave isn't as important to see. We'll let you see the other one just because this is an end panel. Put our little T-clip in, or the T-bolt in there, twist it clockwise to tighten it.
Yeah, it's really is. I already know a little bit about it.
Get that a little bit snug.
That's right.